There comes a moment in life when you look around and realize you're the only one still standing after giving your all. You gave your time, your energy, your loyalty, your love, and yet when you needed someone, no one showed up. That silence, it's louder than any applause you ever got for being helpful. It cuts deeper than any betrayal, and I want you to feel this. Because too many of you have built your worth around being useful to people who only remember your name when they need something. You've been their lifeline, but now you're drowning and no one's offering you a hand. You're breaking into pieces to keep others whole. And that's not selflessness, that's self-destruction. You were not born to be everyone's emergency plan. You were not created to be the spare battery when their energy runs out. You're not their solution. You are a soul, valuable, worthy, and deeply deserving of peace. It's time to stop. Not because you're bitter, not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to say, I matter too. You ever stop to think about how much of yourself you've given away? Not just the little things, but the big pieces. Your time, your energy, your very soul. You wake up each day with the weight of everyone else's problems pressing down on you, and before you even take a breath for yourself, you're already running to fix someone else's life. And for what? So they can forget you were there once the crisis is over? When you make yourself available to everyone else all the time, you slowly begin to vanish from your own story. Your name disappears in the noise of, can you help me? And I need you. Your needs, your voice, your dreams. They become background noise to the chorus of everyone else's demands. You're there, but are you really present? You're physically here, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you're nowhere to be found. Because when you give yourself away so freely, you become invisible to the one person who matters most, yourself. This invisibility isn't just emotional, it's spiritual and mental exhaustion wearing you down every single day. You think you're doing the right thing by being the rock for everyone else, but what about your foundation? What about your own heart? When you're always the go-to person, the fixer, the yes, in every conversation, your spirit starts to fray at the edges. Your mind becomes cluttered with other people's drama, other people's needs, other people's chaos, and your own clarity fades away. You lose track of what makes you happy, what fuels your passion, and what brings peace to your soul. You're living for everyone else's approval and applause, but those external validations never last. They're fleeting like a spark, and before you know it, you're burnt out, disconnected from your own life and wondering, who am I really living for? The sad truth is that being available to everyone is often a mask we wear to hide deeper fears, fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of being forgotten. So we push ourselves to be the reliable one, the helper, the person who never says no. We convince ourselves that our value is tied to our usefulness. But when you live like this, your own identity becomes a shadow, a reflection of others' needs, rather than your own truth. You start to believe you're only worthy when you're giving, sacrificing, fixing. And that belief is a trap. It keeps you chained to a cycle where your own well-being is the last thing you consider. It's not just exhausting, it's dangerous. Because the more invisible you become to yourself, the easier it is to lose sight of the person you're meant to be. There's a saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's true. You can give and give and give, but if you never take time to refill your own spirit, you're living on borrowed energy. Eventually that energy runs out. You don't have to hit rock bottom to realize this, but sometimes you do. Sometimes the exhaustion becomes so overwhelming that your body, mind, or heart forces you to stop. It's like a warning light flashing red, but too often we ignore it because the needs of others feel more urgent than our own. We prioritize their healing over ours. We believe our rest can wait. But the truth is, rest isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's a vital act of self-respect. When you stop being available to everyone, you give yourself permission to breathe again, to heal again, to show up for yourself in the way you deserve. Think about the people who are constantly reaching out to you, expecting you to be their anchor, their guide, their rescue. Are they ever asking if you're okay? Do they care about your feelings, your struggles, or your victories? More often than not, the answer is no. People tend to take for granted what's always there. When you're always available, they don't see you as a person with limits. They see you as a resource. That's painful to admit, but it's necessary if you want to reclaim your life. Being useful to everyone turns you into a tool, not a human being. And tools get used, but they don't get loved. Love requires reciprocity, respect, and boundaries. When you break yourself trying to be useful, you rob yourself of the love and respect you so desperately need. Now, this isn't about abandoning people who depend on you. It's about reclaiming your boundaries and honoring your own needs without guilt. You have to learn to say no, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to protect your own heart. When you stop bending over backward to be available to everyone, you send a powerful message, not just to others, but to yourself. You say, I am worthy of space. I am worthy of rest. I am worthy of love that doesn't come with condition. That message changes everything. It shifts your energy from exhaustion to empowerment, from invisibility to presence. You begin to see yourself again, not as someone who's only valuable when helping others, but as someone whole and complete on their own. The journey back to yourself starts with one choice, the choice to stop being available to everyone all the time. It means you start protecting your energy like it's gold, because it is. It means you prioritize your dreams and your healing over the endless needs of others. And when you do that, something beautiful happens. You don't just come back to life, you come back to your life. You begin to show up with intention, with clarity, with love for yourself that runs deeper than any obligation. You become visible again, not to others, but to yourself. And that visibility is the first step to true freedom. It's okay to be needed, but it's not okay to lose yourself in the process. You were never meant to be everyone's safety net, everyone's shoulder, everyone's fix-it person. You were meant to be you, whole, strong, visible. So from this moment on, choose yourself, choose your peace, choose your happiness. Because when you stop being available to everyone, you open the door to becoming truly present for yourself first, and then only then for those who deserve the real, unfiltered you. You ever notice how some people seem to expect your kindness like it's theirs for the taking, like your light is always on no matter how dark their storms get? They walk into your life like they own your time, your heart, your energy, because you never said no. And here's the hard truth. When you keep your light burning for everyone, people will take advantage of it. They don't always mean to hurt you, but they don't stop to ask if your flame is burning low or if you need a moment to rest. They only see that you're there, always available, always ready. And so they take and take, draining you without a second thought. What's worse is that because your light is so bright, it blinds you to the fact that it's happening. You think you're just being generous, but in reality, you're handing over your power, piece by piece. You become a well without a bottom, and one day, you'll find that you're running dry. This kind of taking isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's subtle, like a whisper in the night that convinces you to give just one more time, to listen just a little longer, to sacrifice just a bit more. It creeps in through small favors that pile up until they become the weight of the world on your shoulders. You feel guilty saying no because you don't want to disappoint or seem uncaring. So you keep giving, hoping that your kindness will be appreciated, that one day someone will return the favor, but it rarely happens like that. Instead, you're left exhausted, your own needs pushed to the sidelines. And while your light shines for others, it flickers and fades inside. The very thing that makes you beautiful, the generosity of your spirit, becomes a doorway for others to walk all over you. It's important to understand that not everyone who takes advantage of your light is a villain. Sometimes they're lost, broken, or selfish in ways they don't fully understand. But the impact on you is the same. When you keep your light on for people who only come around in the dark, you're teaching them that your boundaries don't exist. You're saying without words that your energy is unlimited and your heart is always open. No matter how many times they disrespect or neglect you, you become a pattern, a predictable stop on their journey to fill their own emptiness. And that pattern slowly chips away at your self-worth until you wonder if you deserve anything more than being the person who's always there to pick up the pieces. You don't. You deserve better. You deserve people who see your light and treat it like the precious gift it is. The problem is that when your light is always on, you can lose sight of where you end and others begin. You blur your boundaries so much that you don't recognize when you're being used. You forget that your kindness is a choice, not an obligation. And because you want to help, you often ignore the warning signs, the exhaustion, the resentment, the moments when your heart aches because you feel invisible beneath your own generosity. You think if you just shine brighter, love harder, give more, then maybe the world will finally see the real you. But the truth is, when you never turn your light off, you give people permission to take it for granted. You become a beacon, not of strength, but of endless supply. And no one respects a resource they believe is infinite. Turning your light off doesn't mean you're becoming cold or uncaring. It means you're protecting yourself. It means you're acknowledging that your energy is precious and that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. It means setting boundaries so you can preserve your spirit and avoid burning out. People will test these boundaries, push against them, and sometimes try to break them. But each time you hold your ground, you remind yourself and them that your light is not a tool for their convenience. It's a gift that needs to be guarded. When you finally realize that, you start to treat yourself with the respect you've always deserved. You stop apologizing for needing rest, for saying no, for putting your well-being first. And that is where your true power lies. It's okay to be generous, but generosity without boundaries is a recipe for heartbreak. When you give without limits, you risk losing yourself in the process. People who take advantage don't see your sacrifices. They only see what they can get from you. And the more you give, the more they expect. It becomes a never-ending cycle of giving and taking that leaves you depleted and questioning your worth. Your light should illuminate your path, not guide others to use you as a stepping stone. You were made to shine for yourself first, to grow in your own strength and peace. When you protect your light, you attract the right people. Those who honor you, who don't take but give back, who understand that your kindness is a sacred treasure, not a free-for-all. Learning to turn your light off when you need to is an act of courage. It means facing the fear that people might leave, that they might stop loving you because you're no longer available on their terms. But here's the truth. The people who truly love and respect you will understand. They will see your boundaries not as walls, but as signs of self-love and strength. They will cherish your light more because they know you protect it fiercely. And for those who don't, let them go. Because every time you let go of someone who only wanted your light but not you, you make space for someone who values both. Protecting your light is not selfish. It's the foundation of lasting, healthy relationship. Remember, your light is powerful because it's yours. It's your energy, your heart, your spirit. When you never turn it off, you run the risk of being used, misunderstood, and eventually forgotten. But when you learn to control when and how you shine, you reclaim your power. You decide who gets to bask in your glow and who needs to step into their own. And in doing so, you create a life filled with people who respect your light, appreciate your presence, and love you for who you truly are. Your light is not a burden, it's a gift. But only if you protect it like one. So start protecting it today. So many of us have been taught to measure our value by what we do, by how much we can accomplish, by how useful we are to others. It's like society handed us a scoreboard, and every time we say yes, every time we solve a problem, every time we sacrifice something of ourselves, the numbers go up. But here's the problem with that scoreboard. It doesn't show your true worth. It only reflects how much you can give or do for someone else. It ignores the most important truth, that your worth is inherent, unshakable, and completely independent of your usefulness. You are not a tool designed to fix other people's problems. You are a human being, whole and complete, simply because you exist. Your value doesn't increase or decrease based on your productivity or your ability to serve others. It's already there, constant, like a steady flame burning deep inside you. Recognizing that can change everything. Think about the moments when you feel the most tired, the most stressed thin, when you've been giving so much of yourself that you start to question if you're enough. Maybe you worked late to help a friend, said yes to yet another favor, or put your dreams on hold to support someone else. And still, inside, there's that quiet, nagging voice asking, am I enough just as I am? The painful truth is, if you only believe your worth is tied to usefulness, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and burnout. Because no matter how much you do, it's never enough to fill the emptiness that comes from denying your own value. Your worth is not a prize to be earned through endless doing. It's a gift that's already yours. You only have to claim it. This idea that we must prove ourselves through usefulness creates a dangerous cycle. You start to think your value depends on how many people rely on you, how many problems you solve, how many roles you play. You become the caretaker, the fixer, the one who's always on. And in doing so, you lose touch with who you really are. Beneath all the roles and responsibilities, your identity becomes wrapped up in what you provide instead of who you are. You forget that your feelings, your desires, your dreams, they matter just as much as anyone else's. The hardest part is realizing that being valuable because of what you do is a fragile foundation. It can crumble under the weight of exhaustion, resentment, and unmet needs. But being valuable because of who you are, that foundation can't be shaken. Your being is your essence. It's the unspoken, unseen part of you that doesn't need to prove a thing. It's the quiet confidence that you matter simply because you exist. When you tap into this truth, you start to see yourself differently. You don't have to seek validation through achievements or approval through acts of service. Instead, you begin to appreciate the simple fact that you are enough. You don't need to earn love, you already deserve it. You don't need to keep proving your worth, it's already undeniable. This shift frees you from the exhausting chase of trying to be useful to everyone. It gives you permission to rest, to say no, to care for yourself without guilt. Your worth, rooted in your being, is not negotiable or conditional. It is eternal. Imagine how different your life would feel if you stopped equating your value with usefulness. What if you recognized that your worth is a birthright, not a reward? You would stop overextending yourself to prove something to others and start honoring your own needs. You would no longer stay in situations where you are taken for granted or used because you believe your value depends on being indispensable. Instead, you would create boundaries that protect your energy and your heart. You would allow yourself to be seen for who you are, not just for what you do. This kind of self-respect is transformative. It creates space for genuine relationships where you are loved for your being, not your usefulness. It invites peace where there was once constant striving. It's not easy to break free from the mindset that usefulness equals worth. It takes courage to stop measuring yourself by what you can give and start measuring yourself by who you are. It means facing fears that you won't be loved if you stop being the helper. It means confronting the voices inside your head that say you must do more to be valuable. But every time you reject those lies, you reclaim a little more of your true self. You give yourself permission to be imperfect, to rest, to be vulnerable. And when you live from that place, your relationships deepen because you're showing up authentically, not out of obligation or guilt. You become a force of love and truth simply by being yourself, without having to prove anything. Your worth being in your being means that your value doesn't diminish when you say no. It means that taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. It means that you don't have to earn rest, peace, or happiness. They are your birthrights. When you accept this, you stop chasing external approval and start living from internal validation. You become whole on your own terms, and this wholeness shines so brightly that it draws the right people towards you. Those who see your value beyond what you can do for them. They love you not because you're useful, but because you're real, because you're present, because you're authentically you. That's a kind of worth that can never be taken away, no matter what happens around you. At the end of the day, your worth is not a task to complete or a box to check. It's not something to earn through endless effort or sacrifice. Your worth is simply you, your presence, your heart, your soul. It's the quiet dignity of existing, the strength in your vulnerability, the light you carry even when the world tries to dim it. When you stop tying your value to usefulness, you step into a freedom that changes everything. You no longer live to serve others at the expense of yourself. Instead, you serve from a place of fullness, a place of peace, a place of knowing that you are enough just as you are. And that truth will carry you through every storm, every struggle, and every triumph, because your worth is not in what you do, it's in who you are. Saying yes when you really want to say no is one of the most common ways we betray ourselves. It's a quiet surrender, often born from fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as selfish or weak. We get trapped in this cycle where our yes becomes a way to avoid confrontation, to keep peace, or to hold on to acceptance. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes out of fear, you chip away at your own power. You give away a little piece of your freedom and your dignity. You tell yourself that what others want is more important than what you need or deserve. That's not strength. That's survival mode. Strength comes not from bending to the will of others, but from standing firm in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Saying no is not about shutting people out. It's about protecting your inner world, your energy, your boundaries. Fear is a powerful driver. It whispers in your ear that if you say no, you will be rejected or unloved. It convinces you that your worth depends on your usefulness, on your ability to please. And so you say yes to every request, every demand, every expectation, even when your heart is screaming otherwise. But the problem with living this way is that fear is never satisfied. No matter how much you give in, the anxiety only grows. You feel exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from yourself. You lose the ability to recognize your own needs because you're too busy trying to meet everyone else's. Fear-driven yeses don't create harmony. They create inner chaos. But strength-driven no's, on the other hand, build respect from others, but most importantly, from yourself. Saying no from strength is an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that your time, your energy, and your peace are valuable. When you say no because you honor your boundaries, you're teaching people how to treat you. You're setting a standard that says, I am not here just to serve your convenience. I am here as a whole person with limits and needs. This kind of no is powerful because it's rooted in confidence, not fear. It says you are enough as you are, and you don't have to justify your decisions to anyone. It's not about being rude or unkind. It's about being honest and authentic. When you learn to say no this way, you create space in your life for what truly matters, for relationships and commitments that uplift and respect you. Many of us confuse saying no with being selfish. We've been conditioned to believe that to say no is to hurt others or to fail them. But here's the reality. When you say yes out of obligation or fear, you often end up doing a disservice to everyone involved, including yourself. Your energy becomes depleted, your focus scattered, and your resentment grows beneath the surface. That resentment leaks into your interactions, damaging relationships in ways that a simple no never would. Saying no from strength, by contrast, is an act of generosity. Generosity toward yourself and toward others. It allows you to show up fully when you do say yes. It means your commitments come from a place of choice, not coercion. And that kind of presence is the foundation of genuine connection. Learning to say no from strength requires practice and courage. It means confronting the discomfort of disappointing others or facing pushback. It means standing firm even when guilt tries to creep in. But every time you choose strength over fear, you grow more resilient. You learn that no one's love or respect hinges on your endless availability. You discover that the world doesn't end when you set boundaries. In fact, it often improves. You attract people who value you for who you are, not just what you can provide. And most importantly, you reclaim your power to live a life aligned with your values, your dreams, and your well-being. This is the freedom that comes from saying no from strength. The journey from fear-drew yeses to strength-drew no's is deeply personal and transformative. It asks you to rewrite the stories you tell yourself about worth, approval, and responsibility. It challenges the old belief that you must always be available, always be helpful, always put others first. Instead, it invites you to embrace a new story, one where your needs matter, where your peace is non-negotiable, and where saying no is a courageous act of self-love. This shift changes how you relate to yourself and to the world. It brings clarity to your choices and peace to your soul. It reminds you that your time and energy are precious resources meant to be guarded fiercely. One of the most powerful things about saying no from strength is that it's liberating. It frees you from the exhausting treadmill of people-pleasing. It allows you to focus on what truly nourishes your spirit and your goals. It opens the door to deeper, more authentic relationships because you're no longer living behind a mask of forced compliance. You become someone who shows up fully, unapologetically, and with intention. And that kind of presence is magnetic. People respond to it with respect, admiration, and genuine connection. Saying no becomes not a barrier, but a bridge. A way to align your actions with your truth and create a life that reflects your deepest values. So start practicing the art of saying no from strength. Notice the moments when fear tempts you to say yes out of obligation or guilt. Pause, breathe. Remember that your value is not tied to how much you do for others, but to who you are. Trust that setting boundaries is a form of love for yourself and for those around you. And when you say no, do it with kindness and clarity, standing firm in your truth. This is how you reclaim your power, protect your peace, and build a life that honors your worth. Stop living for others' expectations and start living for your own strength. That's where real freedom begins. Sometimes the hardest decision you'll ever make is the one where you have to walk away. Not because you stopped caring, not because you're bitter, but because staying is hurting more than leaving ever could. Walking away isn't about cruelty or revenge. It's not about proving a point or trying to teach someone a lesson. It's about choosing yourself after 1,000 moments when you didn't. It's about recognizing that your peace matters, your heart matters. We are taught to endure, to hold on, to fight for relationships, friendships, or dreams, even when they start poisoning our soul. But there comes a time when the fight is no longer noble. It's just self-destruction disguised as loyalty. Walking away is not giving up, it's growing up. It's understanding that healing doesn't happen in places that keep cutting you open. It's the moment when you say, I can't do this to myself anymore. And that is the beginning of something sacred, the beginning of your return to yourself. You're not cruel for walking away from people who repeatedly ignore your boundaries. You're not heartless for choosing distance when closeness starts to feel like suffocation. The world will try to guilt you into staying in situations that damage you. They'll call it strength. They'll call it compassion. They'll say you gave up too soon. But they're not the ones who cry in silence. They don't carry the invisible weight of constantly being misunderstood, overlooked, or used. You do. So only you know what your soul can carry and when it's time to put it down. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to walk away, not only for your own sake, but also for theirs. Staying and allowing toxicity to continue enables pain. Leaving creates a vacuum that allows both parties to reflect, to grow, and to maybe one day reconnect from a place of mutual respect, not mutual damage. There is a deep ache that comes with walking away, especially when your heart is still involved. You can love someone and still leave. You can care deeply and still know that your time in someone's life has come to an end. Love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means letting go before love turns into resentment. It's not a failure, it's a form of grace. Grace for yourself so you don't have to keep bleeding in silence. Grace for them so they're no longer carrying your silent resentment. The world tells you to fix things, to make them work at any cost, but not everything broken can be mended, and not every wound heals in the presence of the one who caused it. Sometimes healing begins the moment you take your final step away, when you reclaim your voice, your space, your breath. People will not always understand why you left. They'll judge you based on the part of the story they saw, not the whole journey you lived. They didn't see the nights you stayed up wondering if you were the problem. They didn't hear the voice inside you that kept whispering something isn't right. They weren't there when you gave chance after chance, hoping something would finally change. So don't waste your energy explaining your exit to those who were never invested in your pain. You don't need permission to choose peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you can no longer break yourself to keep something whole. Walking away might not look brave on the outside, but it's one of the bravest things you'll ever do, because it means you're finally ready to stop settling for almost, for crumbs, for pain dressed up as love. The act of walking away doesn't mean you hate the person or the place you're leaving. It means you've finally decided to love yourself more. And that's not selfish, that's survival. You can't heal in the same environment that keeps breaking you. You can't grow while constantly shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You were not born to live in emotional captivity. Walking away is you saying, I matter too. It's a declaration that you won't abandon yourself anymore for the sake of pleasing others. This kind of healing is messy, slow, and painful, but it's also powerful. It teaches you how to stand alone. It teaches you that your worth isn't defined by who stays. It's revealed in what you're willing to walk away from when it no longer serves your soul. It hurts to let go, especially when you've built so much of your identity around being there for others. You were the rock, the listener, the one who stayed no matter what, but even rocks break under pressure, and even the strongest hearts grow tired. Walking away doesn't erase all the good you gave. It just means you're done doing it at the expense of your own well-being. People will say you changed, and they'll be right, but they won't see that it was the constant disrespect, the constant disregard that did the changing. You changed because you had to, Because if you didn't, you would have disappeared inside the very love you were trying to preserve. Leaving isn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the most honest thing you can do. It's how you tell the truth, not just to them, but finally to yourself. Walking away is not weakness. Weakness is staying somewhere that breaks you over and over and calling it loyalty. Strength is walking away even while your hands tremble and your heart aches, because deep down you know there's more waiting for you on the other side of pain. Healing doesn't come in comfort zones. It comes in those terrifying moments where you choose yourself for the first time in a long time. It comes when you stop ignoring the red flags, when you stop pretending everything's okay just to keep the peace, when you stop betraying yourself for someone who would never do the same for you. Healing begins the moment you say no more, and walking away is the first step toward that freedom, the kind of freedom that doesn't come with applause, but with deep, silent relief. There will be days when you miss them, the memories, the moments, the good parts, and that's okay. Missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It just means your heart is healing from the space they used to occupy. Don't confuse nostalgia with a sign to return. Sometimes we romanticize what hurt us simply because we miss who we were before we got broken. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself cry. But don't go back to what you walked away from out of loneliness or guilt. Your future self is counting on you to keep walking, to keep choosing what honors your growth over what feels familiar. Pain can be comfortable when it's all you've known, but peace is worth the discomfort of change. The real cruelty would be forcing yourself to stay small just so others don't have to adjust. It's okay to walk away from family. It's okay to walk away from friends. It's okay to walk away from jobs, cities, commitments that no longer align with your soul. Life is too short to keep sacrificing your joy on the altar of obligation. You were not created to live in cycles that drain you. You were made to thrive, to feel, to breathe freely. And you cannot do that in environments that constantly trigger your fight or flight response. Walking away doesn't make you less loving. It makes you wise. It means you've stopped measuring your worth by how much you endure and started measuring it by how much you protect your peace. People who truly love you won't force you to suffer in silence to prove it. They'll meet you with the same grace and respect you've always given them. There is a sacred kind of silence that follows after you walk away. It's not empty. It's full of your own breath returning, of your mind finally unclenching, of your spirit rising from the ashes of what it endured. In that silence, you'll begin to hear yourself again. You'll hear your own voice, your own dreams, your own truth. That silence is where you reconnect with your own soul, the parts of you that got lost in trying to save what was never yours to fix. You'll feel lonely at times, yes, but you'll also feel free. And freedom is worth more than comfort. It's worth more than approval. It's worth more than any love that required you to betray yourself just to keep it. People may call you cold. They may say you gave up too easily, but they weren't there in the quiet suffering. They didn't live through the endless compromises, the walking on eggshells, the nights of overthinking everything you said and did. You did. So only you know what it took to finally say enough. Walking away is not cruel. What's cruel is expecting someone to slowly die inside for the sake of keeping appearances. You're not wrong for wanting peace. You're not wrong for choosing space over chaos. You're not wrong for stepping into the unknown if it means stepping away from what's breaking you. Your healing doesn't need validation. It only needs your courage. So many people stay where they're hurting just because they fear the unknown. But walking away, even into uncertainty, is still a gift to your future. You're telling your future self, I believe you deserve better. I believe you deserve peace, safety, and joy. I may not know what's ahead, but I know what I'm leaving behind can't be all there is. That leap of faith is terrifying, but it's also necessary. Because real healing never happens in the comfort of the familiar. It begins where new possibilities are born. And often those possibilities are on the other side of your decision to walk away. And finally, walking away is a promise to never forget your worth again, a promise to listen to your gut even when your heart is confused, a promise to be your own protector when no one else shows up. That promise might break your heart temporarily, but it will save your soul in the long run. You'll look back one day stronger and more whole, and thank yourself for being brave enough to leave when it was easier to stay. Because healing isn't found in clinging, it's found in release. Life has a way of teaching us that strength isn't always found in holding on. Sometimes it's found in the quiet, painful, but necessary act of letting go. When you've given your all, tried your best, and poured your soul into someone or something that no longer serves you, walking away is not a sign of failure. It's a declaration of worth. It's a way of saying, I deserve peace. You don't walk away because you're weak. You walk away because you finally decided to stop abandoning yourself in the name of loyalty to others. That decision, while difficult, is one of the most powerful acts of healing you'll ever make. It's easy to judge someone who walks away. From the outside, it can look like indifference, like a hardened heart. But the truth is, walking away is often born from exhaustion, not arrogance. It's rooted in the deep pain of being stretched too thin, of being taken for granted one too many times. It comes after nights of silence, after endless attempts to fix what was never truly yours to carry. You don't wake up one day and decide to walk away. It's the result of 1,000 little cuts that finally bleed into clarity. You realize that no amount of love, effort, or patience can change something that refuses to grow with you. People might not understand your choice. They may not see the battles you fought behind closed doors. They'll only notice your absence, not the endless moments where you silenced your pain just to keep the peace. And that's okay. Your healing isn't a public performance. You don't need to justify your boundaries to anyone who benefited from you not having them in the first place. What matters most is that you find your breath again, that you rediscover your own heartbeat in the silence that follows. Because in that space, you start to feel your soul realign. You begin to hear your inner voice rise above the noise of other people's expectations. Letting go doesn't mean you stopped caring. It doesn't erase the love you once had or the effort you gave. It simply means that you're ready to stop bleeding for connections that keep wounding you. Sometimes love must take a new shape, one that no longer involves closeness, one that says, I still wish you well, but from a distance where I can protect my peace. And there is nothing cruel about that. In fact, it's one of the most compassionate things you can do for both yourself and for others, because staying in a dynamic that fosters resentment helps no one. It only prolongs the pain. Healing is a journey that begins the moment you walk away from what hurts, even when it's familiar. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, and often lonely, but it is also sacred. It is where you meet yourself again, the version of you that doesn't need to shrink, beg, or tolerate what is misaligned. You learn that peace is not something you have to earn by pleasing others. It's something you are allowed to claim simply because you exist. You realize that it's not your job to fix people who don't want to change, or to keep proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. Your value was never up for negotiation. In choosing to walk away, you begin to rewrite your story. You start to unlearn the belief that love has to hurt to be real, that you must sacrifice your soul to belong, that loyalty means staying even when it costs you everything. You realize that love should feel like safety, not anxiety. That home is a place where you can exhale, not a battlefield where you're constantly on guard. You begin to understand that walking away it's a beginning of truth, a beginning of self-trust, a beginning of living in alignment with who you are and what you truly deserve. You're not bitter for choosing distance. You're not heartless for choosing silence. You're not broken for needing space. You're human, and humans grow, humans evolve. Sometimes we outgrow relationships, environments, or versions of ourselves, not because we're better, but because we're healing. And healing requires separation. It requires stillness. It requires you to choose yourself in a world that's constantly asking you to put everyone else first. So give yourself permission to do what's best for your soul, even if it disappoints others. Their comfort is not your responsibility. Your well-being is. In this journey of healing, you will find new strength, new clarity, and new freedom. You'll discover the kind of peace that doesn't depend on external validation. You'll start to attract people and places that don't require you to abandon yourself just to feel loved. That's what happens when you stop settling for less than you deserve. The universe begins to meet you where you're finally willing to be. You begin to rise, not in anger, but in purpose, not in fear, but in faith. You stop surviving and start living. And all of that begins the moment you decide, I can love someone and still walk away. I can care and still let go. I can choose peace and still be kind. So if you're standing at that crossroads, if your heart is heavy with the weight of goodbye, remember this: walking away isn't cruel, it's necessary. It's how you honor all the versions of yourself who stayed too long, who hoped too much, who broke too quietly. It's how you say, I will not abandon myself this time. And in that decision, you give yourself the greatest gift of all: freedom. The freedom to heal, to grow, to find joy again. The freedom to become who you were always meant to be, beyond the pain, beyond the past. Thank you for allowing me to share this truth with you. May you always have the courage to choose yourself, the strength to walk away when needed, and the wisdom to know that healing is never cruel, it's sacred. God bless you, protect your heart, and guide your steps. And most importantly, never forget that your peace is worth everything. Take care of your soul. Thank you. God bless you.